EY or KPMG? Which one is better to work at? You'll find out at the end of this video. Let's start by talking about each of these firms. Both Ernst & Young, also known as EY, and KPMG are part of a group known as the Big Four because they are two of the four largest professional service companies in the world, along with Deloitte and PwC. If you're interested in learning more about Deloitte and PwC, I have other videos covering those firms. But for this video, I want to focus on EY and KPMG. So let's start with them and what made them who they are today. EY, as it's known today, was actually founded in 1989, but it came as a result of a merger between two other companies, Ernst & Whitney, which was founded in 1903, and Arthur Young & Co., which was founded in 1906. And today, they have more than 700 locations across more than 150 countries, and they employ more than 300,000 people globally. Last year, they made $49 billion, mostly across their consulting, advisory, and auditing services. EY's clients include some of the largest companies in the world, including Coca-Cola, AT&T, and HP. KPMG, as is known today, was founded in 1987 and also came as a merger between two companies that bear the initials that they have today. And last year, they did about $36 billion in revenue. And similar to EY, most of this revenue also came from consulting, advisory, as well as auditing. While KPMG's revenue is the smallest of the Big Four, they're still large enough to be considered one of the Big Fours. In fact, if you're familiar with other firms in the space, you might know firms like McKinsey, Bain, and BCG. Well, KPMG, even though it's the smallest of the Big Four, has a revenue that's bigger than all three of McKinsey, Bain, and BCG combined. KPMG has more than 600 locations across more than 150 countries, and today employ more than 200,000 employees. And their clients also include household names like Accenture, Rolls-Royce, and General Electric. All right, so let's talk about the differences between working at EY and KPMG. So first off let's talk about their reputation when it comes to their expertise. Both are well known for many facets, but there are a couple things that stand out. For example, for EY is their risk practice, their financial practice, as well as their analytics practice. And for KPMG, a lot of it's from their operational practices, as well as their company transformation practices. And while both firms do consulting and advisory, EY has a bigger brand name when it comes to it, especially with their subset of EY Parthenon. But again, both are amazing companies when it comes to consulting, but with EY, you also get EY Parthenon. But one of the benefits, though, of working at KPMG is there's a lot less travel than compared to EY, on average. Again, it depends on the project, but on average, KPMG consultants travel a lot less. And you actually look deeper into it. It's part of KPMG's culture. So in fact, one of the things is that whenever I go out to dinner with friends of mine who are working at EY and friends of mine who work at KPMG, if I had to make a bet each time, the person who's going to be late or cancel completely is the person who's working at EY versus the person who's working at KPMG. I do expect to show up on time and have very minimum to no cancellations ever. And that's just the reality of it. But again, it depends on the project you're working on. In general, you can expect that work-life balance is a lot better at KPMG. And when it comes to exit opportunities, you have to assess where do EY and KPMG employees go afterwards. And one of the things that I like to do is I always like to look on LinkedIn and figure out where do alumni end up. And so after comparing thousands of profiles, this is some of the things that stood out to me. When it comes to exit opportunities with EY, a lot of people end up leaving for corporate strategy teams, and there's a higher percentage of people who go into marketing, operations, and product roles. And if they stay in finance, they'll likely go into private equity. And for KPMG, there was a higher percentage of people who went on to work in healthcare, life sciences, and even policy. Technology consulting and cybersecurity was another popular exit plan as well. And for those who stayed into financial services, largely a lot of it was in insurance as well as banking. So now that we talked about the differences, let's talk about the similarities between the two firms. So both, I already mentioned, have a amazing reputation and global presence. They're both leaders in the professional services. Again, they have the name Big Four for a reason. The second is the talent development. Both KPMG and EY, through their various initiatives, rotational programs, really want their employees to succeed. And you can kind of see this from their impressive alumni network as well. So for example, at EY, you have people who become CEOs of major companies, to prime ministers, to even former Miss Americas. And at KPMG, you have people who also become CEOs, entrepreneurs, and even New York Times bestselling authors. So both companies will give you an acceleration on your career. But before you get those benefits, you have to actually get the job. And the recruiting process is very similar, which is you start off with the online application, which then moves on to the online assessment, and then you'll be invited back for a series of interviews. The promotion paths are very similar. Even if the titles are different, you can have a similar promotion path. At EY, if you're fresh out of undergrad, you start off as an associate, then you become a consultant, then a manager, then a director, and finally a partner. At KPMG, you start off as either an analyst or associate if you're an undergrad, depending on the role and the title in the office you're at. Then you become a consultant, then a manager, then a director, and finally a partner. And the promotion cycle is very similar between the two firms. And if you're an exceptional performer, you'll also get promoted early as well. And when it comes to compensation, there is a slight difference, which is KPMG salaries tend to be slightly lower than EY salaries. But The good news though is that if you were to rank all the employers on the world between highest paying to the least paying, then EY and KPMG are in the top 5%. So you're going to be earning a lot from either firms, but just know that EY does pay slightly higher on average for similar roles in similar offices. So that being said though, now that you know the similarities and differences between the two, which one should you actually apply to or even work at? To know which one is better for you, there's two ways to look at it. First is long term. Long term, I always like to think about what do you want to do after EY or KPMG. So for example, if there's a certain industry that you want to focus on, while both firms work across a wide variety of industries, EY traditionally has had a stronger focus on a few industries such as risk management, finance, and analytics. And you can see this in the work that alumni at EY do as well. For example, those who go on to do corporate strategy, do marketing, do product, do operations, do private equity. So if those stand out to you, EY might be the better fit. While at KPMG also has its own focuses as well. KPMG has a strong expertise when it comes to technology, organizational transformations, and particular practice areas. So you see a lot of KPMG alumni going into opportunities, for example, healthcare, life sciences, policymaking, technology consulting, and cybersecurity. And of course, financial services as well, like we mentioned earlier in this video. So if you do know what you want to do after working at EY or KPMG, work backwards from there. But let's just say that you don't know what you want to do yet, and you actually want to find out and use your time at EY or KPMG to figure out, what do I do with my career? Well, my advice is this. Think about the short term. Even if you don't know what the long term is, think about the short term. Which of the two cultures do you vibe with the most? As you're interacting with the people who work at the firms, as you're applying through, as you're having your interviews, which people can you see yourself actually spending more time with? The reason for this is that if you vibe with the culture, you're going to explore a lot more and think about how you can expand what you're doing at the firm. But if you hate the people, from my experience, you're going to want to do as minimal as possible before you go home. So find the culture that vibes well with you, even if you don't know what you want to do long term yet. And since both firms will give you exposure to more industries, you'll eventually find out what you want to do. Of course, I'm asking you to do a tricky thing, which is to figure out which culture, because even within cultures, there's a lot of subcultures within the teams and within the firms as well. For example, the KPMG London office is going to be a lot different than KPMG EY office, while the EY advisory group might be a lot different from the EY Parthenon group. So as such, when you're distinguishing between the cultures and the subcultures, I really want you to take the time to get to know the people who you're going to be working with. So it's important for you to understand your particular groups and particular geographies vibe versus just making generalized statements. So definitely talk to people who are on the inside. And after interacting with enough people from the group or the geography, you'll start to develop your own feel of what a personality of that firm is and that team. And you'll figure out which culture you vibe with more. And this is going to go a long way in helping you decide if you should work at EY or KPMG. And now that you know the similarities and differences between EY and KPMG, I'm just curious, which of the two firms are you more interested in? If you comment EY or KPMG below, I'll share with you additional resources on how to help you land an interview and prepare for the interviews, depending on which firm you're applying to. So for example, if you put EY, I'll share with you some free resources on helping you land an offer at EY. And if you're 100% sure about pursuing a career at EY, KPMG, or another consulting firm, I'd love to help you. Here at my consulting offer, we're a team of former recruiters, interviewers, and consultants. And we just created a free training where we share the secrets of how to get your interviews, pass your interviews, and land your dream consulting job, regardless of your background. All you have to do to access the free training is to click the link below, and you'll be one step closer to landing your dream consulting job. But you don't have to take my word for it. Hear from 𝗂𝗄𝗄, who went through the free training and landed his offer at KPMG. I'll link to 𝗂𝗄𝗄's video somewhere above my head, and I'll see you in the next video.